This is the Wrestlebread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee, and this is episode 143 of the Wrestlebread Podcast. So this episode was a little later due to the news that occurred on Sunday with Scott Hall being put on life support due to suffering from 3 heart attacks during hip surgery. Kevin Nash came out on Twitter and mentioned that the family was getting together. Once they get together and say their last goodbyes, they would take him off life support. And unfortunately, Monday night, Scott Hall had passed away. One of the hard deaths in wrestling. Scott Hall was a favorite amongst a lot of people. I was a big fan of Razor Ramon. I always thought he was really cool. Keep an eye out on the YouTube channel. I did a reaction to his match with the 1-2-3 Kid, his the WWE debut, and then one of the vignettes, of course, that showed him off as Razor Ramon. Because I didn't really watch a lot of WCW, I really didn't get to see him with the NWO that much. I knew of him in NWO, and I saw a few clips back then with him in NWO, but I didn't really get to experience him as Scott Hall in the outsider, like a lot of people did. My like for Scott Hall came from Razor Ramon, and he was one of the few heels that I had liked. Even though you're supposed to boo someone like him, I thought he was cool as all hell. And so it's just like, like you'll hear me say during that reaction, it just hits hard because these are wrestlers that either got you into wrestling or kept you interested in wrestling that is now are passing on. And it's just like now you're feeling like the end of eras when it comes to wrestling. Because, even though he retired from wrestling, he still appears at things like that, you still, like, there's still, like, interaction, stuff like that, seeing the NWO together and stuff like that. I mean, they were inducted into the Hall of Fame 2 years ago. But yeah, it's just my, prayers and thoughts and condolences go out to his family and friends. A lot of people in the wrestling world was touched by him. Also prayers to Kevin Nash too. To lose someone very close to you, it can definitely do something to one's mental health. And I hope that he has a lot of support around him. That to know that Scott Hall is in a better place. And even though he's not here physically, he's watching down on him, and, guiding him through life. So, yeah, thoughts and prayers go out with Kevin Nash as well, that that he'll be, okay as well. But yeah, it's just been a very tough time with in wrestling, because, Scott Hall was very influential when it came to the Attitude Era, because he was part of the NWO, which was a big thing in WCW. And so, yeah, like I said, he really influenced a lot of people to get into wrestling and stay into wrestling, especially if he was a WCW fan. I mean, you don't get any better than the NWO in WCW, and he was a part of a lot of memorable matches and moments. I loved his match against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 10, of course, one of the most memorable ladder matches of that time. I remembered his match with the 1-2-3 Kid, just the shock of it all. And, I actually wanted Razor Ramon to win. So yeah, just thoughts and prayers all around for his family and friends once again. So getting into some other news as well. I don't know if you saw it on YouTube, but there was of course, WE has been promoting the hell out of WWE 2K22. There was a crossover promotion with Hot Ones. If you don't know what Hot Ones is, basically it's a great interview show where, I forgot the full name, but the host's name is Sean. He interviews different celebrities and athletes. And while he's interviewing them, they're going through either 5 or 10 wings with different levels of hot sauce. It was very good show. Definitely check it out, especially the Gordon Ramsay one. But on this one, we had Big E and Goldberg guest appearing on there. And if you know anything about Big E loves him some Goldberg. So seeing them two together was pretty good. Really, unfortunately, it's not going to lead to a match for Big E, but to see them two interact together, especially the way Big E was pretty entertaining. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely check that out. So getting into some recaps with AEW, interesting episode of Dynamite, of course. We had started off with Hangman Page versus Dante Martin. I believe it was for the title, but I have to check because I didn't know Dante Martin was really up there as far as getting a title shot. But Dante Martin is an excellent wrestler. We knew that he wasn't going to defeat Hangman, but just the fact that he was really put over by Adam Page really shows. And then of course seeing his brother coming back, Top Flight is back, so I can't wait to see them try to go after the tag team titles as well. The biggest thing, first of all, one of the biggest things I should say, that came out with AEW Dynamite was the new team of Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson with William Regal as their manager, which, I didn't think. I'm telling you, man, these bingo cards for 2022 has been crazy. If you had told me, 2-3 years ago that Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson, and William Regal will be in basically a little team together, I would have thought you had been crazy. But it's so exciting to see William Regal in AEW. And I think, William Regal, and I said this before, is an excellent signing for AEW. He can definitely help out the younger wrestlers there. There are wrestlers that really needs help, especially the fact that AEW has this freedom, this creative freedom where you cut promos and come up with your characters, stuff like that. And while it works for a lot of the veterans who, are very solid with their character, able to come up with promos and do something creatively, some people need help. I'm going to get to this point a little bit later, but there are some wrestlers out there that kind of it feels like they're falling by the wayside as far as not getting a lot of TV time. And I feel like it's because of that reason. It's nothing. They're not as experienced with coming up with promos and, things to do in the ring and stuff like that. And I feel like having someone like William Regal, and I hope there's a little rumor out there that the younger crowd don't like to be told what to do, which I hope isn't the point, and that'll be very stupid if that is true. But someone like William Regal can definitely help out the younger crowd. Help them okay, what is it that you want to do? You want to cut this promo, this, that, and the third. It's going to be I really hope that, not the younger crowd, but the younger talent, I really hope this really helps people like, Dan Garcia, people who are talented in the ring, but they just need that extra push as far as character and, promo work and stuff like that. Now, William Regal had cut a promo after the match between Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson versus the Workhorsemen. Some people thought it went on too long, but you have to realize, he's really in a moment. So, he did apologize on social media. I felt as though it didn't, me personally, I felt as though it really didn't go too long because, this is a story that I haven't really heard before. Him thanking Tony Schiavone and him getting choked up and stuff like that about, just really what's going on with him. So a little bit later in the show, kind of, pointing off of my point with William Regal, Wardlow had appeared. And he had to cut a promo. This is Face Wardlow. And he cut a promo about, how he's not going to let MJF, basically he's not going to be facing MJF. He is concentrating on the TNT Championship. And I have to say, this promo really sounded very scripted and very WWE, especially the whole, this is now Wardlow's world or something like that, which is like, whoa. And so, yeah, someone like him, obviously, I don't think he came up with this promo. If he did, he definitely wrote it down and tried to, really remember it instead of making it sound like he's talking from the heart and stuff like that, like we see with Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston, and even Chris Jericho and CM Punk. People like them, when they cut their promos, it feels like they're, coming from the heart, like they're freestyling and stuff like that. So hearing someone like Wardlow cut a promo like that, you can clearly tell the difference, and it's really feeling like, yeah, someone wrote that for him. So I feel like with Wardlow, solid in the ring, fans are definitely going to be behind him, but he's definitely going to need help as far as, getting help with promos. And I'm hoping that William Regal will help him with that. I don't see why not. Truth be told, and I'll get into this prediction for what I hope happens with the TNT Championship match tomorrow. But I think his next feud will definitely going to have to involve MJF. As much as I've enjoyed the MJF versus CM Punk feud, I really don't know how they're going to be able to prolong it any further, especially if they're trying to go to Double or Nothing, which I highly doubt they do. I think now this is going to, like I said, go into MJF versus Wardlow. And if that's where they're going to go, Wardlow is definitely going to need help as far as promos, because MJF will just kill him on the mic. So then we had Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus versus The Acclaim. I love The Acclaim, and I'm glad that they're really starting to get over with the crowd, especially when Max Caster starts having his bars and stuff like that. Sometimes he could say a few things a bit controversial, but sometimes that's what it is when you be freestyle rapping. You just go off the top of the head and stuff. We also had Thunder Rosa versus Layla Hirsch. I'm not the biggest Layla Hirsch fan. It seems like there's some type of promise there, but yeah, it's not there yet. It's really not there yet. And that's how it kind of is with the whole women's division. But I think in 2-3 years, I think they'll be definitely solid. But it's always it's just, I don't, like I keep saying, I don't know if it's just lack of experience or not enough trust and communication in the ring. The women's division definitely needs a veteran or a coach or something like that to help them out, because it's just something that comes across with a lot of the matches where it leads to a botch, or it leads to something awkward with the matches. The matches don't flow as smoothly as other matches in AEW, and it really makes that women's division suffer. So this match between Thunder Rosa and Layla Hirsch, it wasn't really that good. And I think it looked like Thunder Rosa was actually injured from that. But after the match, Thunder Rosa had won, and then Tony Schiavone made the announcement. Of course, they're going to, I think it's San Antonio, they're going to this week, and it was announced that Britt Baker, will be going against Thunder Rosa for the women's championship inside a steel cage, which, having heard that, it makes it feel like, why did we have that match at Revolution for Britt Baker to go over just to have her lose the title next week to Thunder Rosa? In my opinion, I feel as though it shouldn't even have happened, the match at Revolution, because everybody was expecting for Thunder Rosa to win. And especially the fact that they constantly have Britt Baker get interference and stuff like that. I think what should have happened was, like I said, I don't think the match should have happened at the Go Home show either. You could have easily had Thunder Rosa versus Jamie Hayter or something like that. Had Britt Baker interfere, and then have Thunder Rosa, pretty much do something and attack Britt Baker, put her in the submission hold or something like that, and have Britt Baker almost tap. And then you have, Rebel, Jamie Hayter, and Britt Baker like beat down Thunder Rosa. Pretty much, not really fake injury her, but like beat her down to where it feels like she can't wrestle. Like, I don't know. It's very difficult because, yeah, you'll be taking the women's title off of Revolution, but you could have replaced it with a different match altogether. And just then announce that on Dynamite in 2 weeks, you'll have them to go against each other in Thunder Rosa's hometown. Like, AEW really has this big thing with winning in the hometown and having things happen in a wrestler's hometown. So we all know what's going to happen, and it feels like it kind of takes the magic out of it. Now, this is going to be a good match. First of all, it's inside of a steel cage, which is going to be great anyway. There won't be any interference, of course, because of the steel cage. But I feel like, the magic of what this match would be, feel like it was kind of taken away because they just fought each other at Revolution, and then they fought each other at that Go Home show on Dynamite, which is, I don't know, like, it should have that big match feel, but it kind of doesn't. I might feel differently once, we get closer, once, we get to Dynamite. But yeah, I don't really feel it. And then finally, we had Scorpio Sky going against Sammy Guevara for the TNT Championship. I was very happy with this match. We had Scorpio Sky finally winning the title, of course, which I absolutely love. I felt as though he should have got this title a long time ago. And I know he's going to be going against Wardlow. I really hope Scorpio Sky wins that match. If Scorpio Sky ends up being a transitional champion, I'm going to be so upset. Because if I'm not mistaken, Scorpio Sky is the first African American male champion in AEW. And this is a title that he should have gotten a long time ago, especially the fact that he won the first Face of the Revolution match. He got a title shot and lost. And then he just kind of been in like creative hell where he was just like there. So I'm really hoping that this leads to, a lengthy title reign, have him go against Wardlow. They might, I feel like either MJF is going to interfere or Ethan Page is going to interfere or something like that. But I hope Scorpio Sky wins. Of course, they had Tay Conti ringside to come to Sammy Guevara's aid and stuff like that. So, obviously they're bringing forward the fact that they are together in real life. And then we had, Paige Van Zant had signed a contract, so it's going to be her versus Tay Conti. So it feels like this is kind of what they wanted to do with Cody Rhodes and Brandy Rhodes. But I'm more excited with Tay Conti and Sammy Guevara than I would be with Brandy Rhodes and Cody Rhodes. Like, I would have been fine. Like, I'm more excited for that because Cody Rhodes is more of a heel now because everybody boos him. And Brandy Rhodes, God bless her as a person. I really don't know her I really don't know her as a person. But Brandy Rhodes on AEW TV, no. She really shouldn't be cutting promos and stuff like that or going against Paige. Paige would have been in the face. Like not Top Flight, America's top team or something like that. They would have been the face of this feud because everybody would have been booing the hell out of Cody Rhodes and Brandy Rhodes. Unless, they were trying, unless it was the thought of doing a double turn and have, them come out as faces and the Rhodes come out as heels, like it wouldn't have happened at all. Now, of course, we have the meetings between Chris Jericho and Eddie Kingston. They had cut a promo. Shout out to Eddie Kingston for killing the stupid ass what chant. The what chants work with Stone Cold, not in AEW. I don't know why those fans decided to do a what chant on Eddie Kingston, like, that was gonna fly. But Chris Jericho, it led to Chris Jericho 2.0 came out and started attacking Eddie Kingston. Chris Jericho then attacked Eddie Kingston as well. Then we brought out Jake Hager, who decided to join Chris Jericho as well. And then now is being called Jericho Appreciation Society, which I don't know. I don't really like the name too much, but I'm fine with it now. He is going to help elevate 2.0, which definitely needs help. 2.0 with Daniel Garcia. Dan Garcia definitely needed something new. So I'm kind of happy that he is alongside Chris Jericho. We've seen what he did with Sammy Guevara as far as where he started and where he ended up to be. And I'm ready for Daniel Garcia as well. Daniel Garcia, he's like so small, but he walks around like he's fucking Brock Lesnar. So I can't wait to see where he ends up being once he comes out of the Jericho Appreciation Society. They really need to shorten that. Like, it was a lot easier to say Inner Circle versus Jericho Appreciation Society. Like, I guess, I don't know if they're going to shorten it to JAS or JAS. I don't know. They need to work on the name. And then, of course, we had the segment with the AHFO. They decided to have a meeting. We all knew what it was going to be about. They decided to have a meeting about looking to fire Matt Hardy. The private party first had agreed to keep him to stay, and then of course they put their thumbs down, and so this was all a turn onto Matt Hardy. He was getting attacked by private party, Andrade, Butcher, and the Blade as well, and so the fans immediately know what this was. They started chanting for Jeff Hardy and stuff like that. And then Darby Allin and Sting comes out, which, kind of was a bit of a swerve. Bit of a swerve. People was like, okay, what are you doing here? Like, we like you, Darby Allin, but what are you doing here? And so they were getting beat down. And next thing you know, you hear the familiar ass music. Big pop, of course. Jeff Hardy, so excited to get the big pop and be in AEW. He started to do the Jeff Hardy dance, even though his brother was getting fucking beat down. I was fine with it. Like, that, I mean, as soon as you hear the music, you gotta do the fucking dance. But yeah, Jeff Hardy comes down with the Hardy Boys theme, which I thought was owned by WWE as well. A lot of people thought it was owned by WWE as well. Come to find out, it's royalty music. I mean, I've heard a lot of different wrestlers' themes being used in like commercials and movies and radio and stuff like that. But the Hardy Boys theme, like, of all the as much as WWE loves to change people's names, loves to change themes and stuff like that so that they can have the rights, WWE didn't buy the fucking rights to the Hardy Boys theme, which is like the craziest thing I've heard. I believe AEW has now brought the rights, which, smart, buy those rights. But yeah, the fact that WWE didn't buy the rights to that song is really crazy. Like, I know they have the rights to Jeff Hardy's No More Words, which features the the same beat as the Hardy Boys theme, but the fact that they never went and brought the rights to it is completely crazy. But now that is the theme now with AEW, and I'm fine with it. I'm happy with the Hardy Boys being reunited. It's gonna be a lot of dream matches that people are gonna be looking forward to. Of course, them versus the Young Bucks, them versus Jurassic Express, them versus the Lucha Bros, them versus even you could even do House of Black, them versus Red Dragon, them versus any members of the Dark Order. Like, you can go down the list of, them versus Private Party as well. So you can go down the list of a lot of tag teams that they could feud with. Of course, there's more likely maybe like the final run for the Hardy Boys, but I'm happy that they are back together again and can definitely you know, have a lot of fun with these matchups against younger talent as well. But yeah, overall, this was an interesting AEW Dynamite. Of course, the highlights of Jeff Hardy appearing, and then seeing the team of Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson, and William Regal coming together. But yeah, overall, it was fine. It was a fine Dynamite. So going into WWE, it was actually announced that Queen Sharmell will be going to the Hall of Fame. Now, as far as WWE's Hall of Fame goes, there really isn't that much of criteria that goes into who gets into the Hall of Fame and who doesn't. But, I'm happy for, Queen Sharmell. However, I feel as though there are other women who should go into the Hall of Fame first, before her. For instance, Chyna, someone who I know will probably never get into the Hall of Fame, but I'm hoping that now, unfortunately that she passed away, that, they'll be able to open the door to it. Other people, Victoria, Melina, Sable, which I completely forgot is not in the Hall of Fame at all, and possibly Paige, if they're not trying to get her back into the ring, you can definitely look at her to do the Hall of Fame as well. Like I said, unlike, NFL and NBA and MLB and all the other sports, there really isn't a criteria to get into the Hall of Fame, and there isn't really a place to visit for the Hall of Fame, so, it is what it is. Every year we always get someone who goes into the Hall of Fame that you sit there and be like, there's other people who should get in there before this person. And, sorry to Queen Sharmell, but I feel like it should be other people before her. So getting into the recaps of Raw and SmackDown, first of all, a lot of people have been hyping up of what is going to be the possible return of Cody Rhodes. WWE hasn't really announced that he was coming. It's mainly all dirt sheets and people looking very deep into words that's being used by, for example, Corey Graves, The Miz. I think Kevin Owens had dropped words to Edge as well. So the fans were getting very hyped, and so a lot of fans had tuned into Raw to watch all 3 hours with the expectation of, Cody Rhodes showing up tonight. And I admit, I brought into it as well. So of course, the whole situation last week, Kevin Owens had cut a promo for Stone Cold Steve Austin to appear at the KO show. Stone Cold Steve Austin responded on social media agreeing to it. The promo that he cut, though, was a bit weird, if I must say, because he kept mentioning how it's been 19 years since he's been in the ring, and they're really like hyping it up for there to be a match, but this is all work towards a talk show that is happening at WrestleMania. And so I'm a little confused because they kept, even though, okay, he hasn't technically had a match in 19 years, but he's been in the ring. He stunned a bunch of people since then. I mean, last time we saw him at a Mania, he did a stunner on Xavier Woods. He, did multiple stunners, really. So the way I feel about this is that, I believe the rumors of WWE wanting a match from Stone Cold Steve Austin, and it's very possible that Stone Cold Steve Austin said no, probably hell no, and, really sticking to his guns that he doesn't want to wrestle anymore. Very similar to what Shawn Michaels, was when he retired. He was like, I'm done. And I feel like because they are really needing to get a lot of people to buy tickets for WrestleMania, that they're still promoting this as if it's a match to kind of put more pressure on Stone Cold Steve Austin, peer pressure too, with the fans getting hype and stuff like that, for him to have an actual match. Because, the word stupendous is the trigger word for this year's WrestleMania. Listen, I don't really hear the word stupendous a lot in my life. I've lived on this earth for a very long time, and the word stupendous doesn't really come across my vocabulary or anyone else that I knows. But for the past, month or two, the word stupendous has been said so many times. I cannot wait for this WrestleMania to be over so I can stop hearing the fucking word stupendous. It's a trigger word. Every time they talk about WrestleMania, they have to use the word stupendous. And I feel like I'm back in the era of studying for the SATs or something, when you had to, get the word of the day type of situation to study. It's giving me those vibes, and I'm not feeling it. I graduated from college a long time ago, and damn it, I'm not going back. So for this Raw, of course, this was built mainly around the whole situation between Kevin Owens and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And so, KO was giving, Seth Rollins a pep talk that, you'll have something, and, I was able to make it to WrestleMania, and he was like, you'll be able to do it too. Like, remember, you defeated this person and that person, and you defeated Brock Lesnar. And so he was like, I got it. He said, I got an idea. And he said, come out to the ring and, mention it. And so he comes out to the ring, and then he brings out Kevin Owens, and he mentions how his great idea was he's going to have a talk show, and he's going to invite Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Kevin Owens was like, no, that's my idea. So they went back and forth, of course. And then Sonya Deville was like, okay, yeah, that's a great idea. You guys should fight for it. Which makes zero sense, because Stone Cold Steve Austin has already agreed to come to WrestleMania to whoop Kevin Owens' ass, because Kevin Owens has been done nothing but talking shit about Texas. So the logic, I guess, we were supposed to have is possibly Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins could possibly win and get his own talk show. Now, look, I give props to Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. They worked their ass off to really try to make this enjoyable. And it was enjoyable. It was enjoyable. But it's just the fact that I need someone to tell Vince McMahon and the rest of the WWE crew, WrestleMania is in 3 weeks. Like, let's stop playing games. This isn't like, this isn't Backlash, or this isn't Hell in a Cell. Like, this isn't a regular pay-per-view. This is, you guys, love the word stupendous, and we are 3 weeks away, and stupendous, the best WrestleMania in all of history, with the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, which, triggers me every time I hear that. And we're still 3 weeks away, and the card still isn't set. I'm sure I can look on Ticketmaster right now and still see tickets available for this damn WrestleMania. 3 weeks away, and this WrestleMania is still not set, which is a damn shame, because normally around this time we're all excited for WrestleMania and stuff like that, and it feels like the final hours of an essay, a 5-page essay you got to turn in. I know I'm going back to college, but It's the only analogy I have right now. That you have a 5-page essay to turn in at 12 o'clock midnight, and it's 8 o'clock and you didn't even start it yet. That's what this is starting to feel like. And whenever there's like this rush with these pay-per-views, it kind of takes the excitement out of it, because you're looking at an unfinished, build. Right now, we should have matches set and, the build coming and the excitement and stuff like that. And I really want to be excited for this year's WrestleMania, but it's not there. Like, there's some matches that I am excited to see, but I want to be excited to sit down for 2 nights back to back for 4 hours at least and be excited for this time. My favorite pay-per-view is the Royal Rumble, but I always love the WrestleMania season. It goes right along my birthday. So, whenever WrestleMania season comes around, it feels like a birthday celebration, stuff like that. But I'm not feeling it this year. And it's really a shame, because this is the first official year of having full crowd, full fans back. And I feel like WWE is not really taking advantage of it. Now, did I really expect for them to, have Cody Rhodes come out? Slightly, yeah. I feel as though, if you really want to troll AEW, have their old EVP debut in the same city where they were just in the parking lot outside, giving the introduction to AEW, and then build from there. Was the crowd, some people had an issue with the crowd. The crowd was dead. They feel as though the pop wouldn't been there. Maybe, you take that chance, because WWE deals with casual crowds. And yeah, it might be disappointing if, that crowd had gotten Cody Rhodes returning and the crowd goes out. They go to Chicago next week. Could he come there? Possibly. What I hope they won't do, I don't know. It's like, it's with this whole Cody situation, WWE kind of like backed themselves slightly in the corner, because they can easily go with the, Seth Rollins having an open challenge at WrestleMania with the possibility of Cody Rhodes there. They can have Cody Rhodes debut within the next 2 weeks. We have 2-3 Raws left to go. Or, it's very possible that they do not have Cody Rhodes still, because they're still working out the deal, despite what the dirt sheets are saying. And they're really, scrambling, because it's a possibility that Cody Rhodes may not even show up. It's a possibility that Cody Rhodes may not show up to Raw after Mania. And, I'm hoping especially for the fans who's like tuning into Raw just to see this type of stuff, I hope they really aren't setting the expectations too high, because, if Cody Rhodes don't show up, like, I won't feel like, oh, WrestleMania has gone down the drain. No. I don't feel like Cody Rhodes Cody Rhodes by himself is going to, make WrestleMania so exciting than what it should be. Will he add to the excitement? Definitely, yeah. But I feel as though we should be excited for WrestleMania outside of this situation, that, having possibly Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania should be the cherry on the top. The cherry on the top, I should say. But looking at the card right now, there's not a lot of matches that I'm excited for. And unfortunately, it kind of ties back to the issue with the Men's Royal Rumble. That's because WWE has this thing where they put all their concentration on a few wrestlers. And because of that, everyone else feels like mid-card or subpar, which it really shouldn't, because they do not have a mid-card type of roster. And we see it when it comes to people going from WWE to AEW. Perfect example. I will use this until I don't know when. The difference between Dean Ambrose and Jon Moxley, even though Daniel Bryan was so good, Bryan Danielson is like to the umpteenth degree. So it's like the talent is there. It's just creatively they're so good with just staying stale and so good with just keeping right above water with the couple of people that will, use as a lifesaver, and everyone else is just like, just floating down the stream. I'm excited to see Edge versus AJ Styles. Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins had a very good match on Raw, but unfortunately, this was all encompassing with Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's Mania season. We're dealing with the part-timers, but usually the part-timers should add to the excitement, not take away. Like, looking at the card, going off of night one only, we have Ronda Rousey coming in, we have Logan Paul coming in, we have Stone Cold coming in. Not too much on night two. Well, Johnny Knoxville coming in as well. And then, whatever else they have going on. But, I should be excited for this. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, this is a WWE versus AEW thing, because I was excited for NXT's as well. Like, it can happen with WWE, and it was there. And maybe I'm just like a cynical person who is just, reflecting on the good days of the Attitude Era, but there have been times where WrestleMania has been exciting. For example, WrestleMania 35 definitely comes to mind. Even though it was 3 matches that everyone was mainly excited for, we had Becky Lynch, we had Kofi Mania, we had Seth Rollins and stuff like that, it still made the pay-per-view very exciting, But with this one, they just put all their eggs in the boat. They just put all their eggs in the basket when it comes to Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. As far as Edge and AJ Styles, Edge has been cutting very good promos. I'm happy to see Edge going heel, but with the absence of AJ Styles, I don't know if he's actually injured or if he's just home on vacation or something like that. It's not really, the build has to be a lot stronger between these two. And then now there's, matches that kind of gotten thrown into the mix as well. Now we have the Usos versus Shinsuke Nakamura and Nick Booz. We got the Women's Tag Team Championship coming in. We have the Raw Tag Team Championship. More likely the United States Championship coming in. The IC title more likely will be coming in. And then whatever else kind of happens. But, I'm hoping that maybe the next 2 or 3 weeks change my mind. But I kind of doubt it. But yeah, so, if Cody Rhodes show up, it'll add to the excitement, definitely. But I want to be excited for WrestleMania, outside of Cody Rhodes. They're really promoting the fact that Carmella and Corey Graves are together, mainly because of the YouTube show that they got going on. I haven't watched it. I do not plan on watching it. They also did on Raw a very good tribute package, I should say, for Scott Hall. Corey Graves getting emotional when he introduced the tribute package. Just kind of shows how much Scott Hall, aka Razor Ramon, has really touched the lives of a lot of people. Friday Night SmackDown was mainly all about Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair. They did go and recreate the segment that we had back at Mania 35, where Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda was getting arrested, and it was that crazy wild segment backstage where they were all handcuffed and they were sitting there fighting each other. So the segment from last Friday kind of reminded me of that, of the wild and craziness that the 3 women were doing, trying to attack each other. It was a cool segment, kind of a nice callback to what has happened so long ago. And then, the segment with Brock Lesnar showing how much of a freak athlete he was, chasing after Paul Heyman. And yeah, I would have been scared out of my mind seeing Brock Lesnar chase after me like that. I mean, goodness gracious, it's like a damn cheetah coming after you. You just pray that you can get away and, run as fast as you can. The two big things, technically three actually. The three big things that came out of this, first off, Austin Theory, like, out of nowhere came out. During, I forgot which match he came out during. It may have been the Ricochet versus Sami Zayn match that he came out with. Pat McAfee was, sitting there like, what is this guy doing? And then Austin Theory had slapped Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee defended himself and started whooping Austin Theory's ass. And he got escorted away. He got escorted out of the building, and Michael Cole had to finish SmackDown on his own, which I was very confused about, because I'm like, I don't know where it's written that a commentator can't really fight. I mean, we've seen Michael Cole, Jerry the King Lawler, and JBL enter the Royal Rumble. I mean, we've seen it all the time of wrestlers who are on commentary go and attack people who, are wrestling or come in their face, stuff like that. So, it's just one of those situations where rules only apply to certain situations. But, I am excited to see Pat McAfee in the ring, though. I definitely remember his crazy ass feud against Adam Cole, where he done shocked the hell out of me. There are some people, though, who, still aren't happy that he was able to go toe-to-toe with Adam Cole. But we will see how he is with Austin Theory. I mean, it's been a couple of years, so Pat McAfee got to get back in shape again and, do all the crazy spots that he did before. Also, we also had... we had a segment backstage, and Sheamus and Rich Holland was introducing someone new, and his name was Butch, and the person comes to the picture, and I'm looking, and I said, is that fucking Pete Dunn? First of all, the way he had his hat on, I thought they made him shave his head. I like his hair, because I thought it was very unique the way the way he has his hair. So I'm like, not only did they change his name, they made him cut his hair just like the fucking rumors from Adam Cole. But they called him Butch, which, I get it. WWE wants to change people's names so that they can market off of them. It's not like they get a bunch of t-shirts or anything like that. I mean, WWE's not a t-shirt company, but it's like, you change his name to Butch. People are trying to make it work, but just like I said with Walter, when you change someone's name, you're essentially erasing the history of that wrestler. Pete Dunne has appeared on the main roster before. He has been in Royal Rumbles, I believe. Like, he's been seen on the main roster. So I just don't get why we change his name to Butch. And to Butch of all people, like, I don't know, Butch is like the name you would give a pit bull or something. Like, that's not what you give to Pete Dunne, yo. And it's like, and then you look over and you see Tommaso Ciampa there, and I'm like, oh no. Like, are they gonna change his name too? Is he gonna be Tommaso? Is he gonna be just Ciampa? Is he going to be baby Triple H? Like I don't know. I'm happy, though, he is with Sheamus and Rich Holland. At least we got where he is booking wise correct. Because his fighting style definitely he's very similar to, fighting style is very similar to Sheamus. And it'll work all together. Even though he looks like a Paperboy, I feel like getting my Nintendo from the basement and popping in Paperboy when I saw the way he was dressed. But it's just the name Butch. And it's like, and it's the same thing that I feel with Doudrop. Like, you're introducing this person to a casual crowd, and they're just going to go off the name Butch. They're not going to look into, what's the name change and all the other stuff. They're just going to take him at face value as Butch. I just feel like just respect the history of your own company. Just talk about who the hell Pete Dunne is, the bruiserweight, what he has done in NXT, and that way he won't feel like an immediate mid-carder. It's just like, it just blows my mind, and I say this all the time, that WWE just does not take advantage to maximize the profits that they can make off of these wrestlers. For them to be such a money-hungry company, they're not hungry for money. You know what I mean? You could easily have introduced them as Pete Dunne, make the next superstar that you could push, once your top people retire and is done with wrestling, you need some other people. Like, you can't bring back Stone Cold Steve Austin 10 years from now. I know they're going to be bringing back Roman Reigns 10 years from now. Maybe Brock Lesnar. I mean, they'll try to push it to the limit with him. But you need to set up the next wave of wrestlers. And you could have easily have done it with Pete Dunne. You could have said, hey, this is Pete Dunne, aka Butch. He was, this is what he did in NXT, yada, yada, yada. Good ass video package. I mean, WWE loves to do their video package. Presented a good ass video package. Boom. All right, you want to put him with Sheamus, stuff like that. Boom. Make his first feud feel like something instead of like throwaways. Now, it feels like they were trying to build a trios match between them and the New Day, and I'll get into the match in a moment. But my point is that you could have introduced Pete Dunne and made him feel, more important, I guess I should say, instead of this backstage segment where it's like, hey, we got a friend, his name's Butch, here he comes. And then then you have the guy looking, I don't know, I can't even explain the look that he had on his face, but he was holding it together, I tell you that. He was holding it together like, yeah, my name's Butch. Like, can you imagine you're a wrestler and you break it in finally, and you come home and they ask you, how was your first day on the main roster? It was good. They had me dressed up like it was the 1930s. Nothing wrong with the look, by the way, but they had me dressed up like the 1930s, and they changed my name. Oh, what did they change your name to, honey? They changed my name to Butch. Excuse me? Butch, that's it? No last name? No last name, just Butch. And so, I don't know. Hopefully I'm proven wrong. I love to be proven wrong with my opinions when I'm like kind of negative Nancy with this, but I don't feel good about this. I really don't. Seeing as though what we have seen, with a lot of other people, especially people that are coming from the black and gold NXT, it's no bueno. But I'm hoping maybe they'll change things with Butch. So getting into the match between Sheamus and Ridge Holland with Pete Dunne going against Biggie and Kofi Kingston. Now, a very nasty suplex on the outside from Ridge Holland, and Biggie landed on his head, and very nasty. Biggie has given updates. He has been very positive about it. So he announced on Twitter, this was on March 12th. So I got some really good news, all things considered. 2 of the 7 cervical vertebrae are indeed fractured. Non-displacement though, which is a very good thing. And I don't have any damage to my spinal cord, no ligament damage, and no surgery, which I'm very thankful for. So I'm very happy to hear that, he doesn't need any surgery. However, the fact that, it's fractured, it kind of gives you thoughts of what happened with Tyson Kidd. A lot of people, when you have that neck issue, it's very hard to come back and wrestle. So I'm, hoping for a speedy recovery for him. He obviously loves he loves to wrestle. He loves doing what he does. And I'm hoping that his recovery is very smooth, smooth, and he comes back very similar to Ricky Starks. But it's still going to be on everybody's mind though. But I'm really hoping that he has a speedy recovery. Like I said, it seems like we were going into a trios match between the New Day, Ridge Holland, Pete Dunne, and Sheamus. But with Biggie out, it might come to Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods returning, going against Pete Dunne and Sheamus. Now, there's, different thoughts about out there. Now, when it comes to, all right, so people are mad at Ridge Holland. When it comes to death threats, like, come on, you're taking it a step too fucking far. It is wrestling, yes, there are situations that can happen. It was a very nasty suplex. And Taz had come out, the person who knows all about suplexes, he came out and spoke out about it. People were slightly upset. I went back to watch it a few times. Well, not a few times. I went back and watched it, and I was, this Taz has a point. Yeah, you wanna get mad at me? You can get mad at me all you want. Whatever, come at me, but I'll block you on my DMs. Anyway, it's one of those situations where you have to. Not that it happens. The risk is there, but you try to do the best that you can to make sure you don't injure the other person. Wrestling is a two-person sport. Both people have to, when a move is performed, both people have to do what they need to do in order to keep themselves safe and to keep the other person safe as well. Do I feel, from what I've read and from what I heard, Ridge Holland did show up to the hospital, apologized to Big E, make sure he was okay. Feels like he is extremely sorry about it. I'm hoping that, I know WWE likes to do little things. They did it with with Nia Jax, when, she got the heat from punching Becky Lynch in the face. They told her to roll with it because she got the heat. I'm hoping that with the heat that Ridge Holland is getting, the WWE won't be like, oh, you're getting a reaction. Won't you go out and start cutting jokes and saying stuff about Big E? No. Let's not do that. Okay. I understand he's a heel and stuff like that. But it's not like he had a broken nose and he is able to come back from it. Like, he broke his neck. So I'm hoping that WWE doesn't do the typical thing and try to take advantage of the attention that the situation is getting and have Ridge Holland go out there and pretty much take massive heat. But I'm really hoping that Big E has a, easy, speedy recovery and is able to get back into the ring. I didn't even look into how long an injury like that would take as far as recovery and when he would come back. Now, I highly doubt this is going to turn into a John Cena, Triple H type of situation where they're supposed to be out for 8 months and they come back in 4. No, I want him to, get as much time as he needs to make a full recovery so that if he wants to get back into the ring, that he will be able to get back into the ring and be able to have a successful career. Because situation with the neck, it can definitely be career ending. And I know that's going to really, break his heart if that happens. I know it's going to be the same with the New Day as well and everyone else that, has been wrestling with him. So, hopes and thoughts and prayers go out to Big E and his recovery. So with Raw, squared away, and we are still 2-3 weeks away from WrestleMania, here is the current WrestleMania card. So going into night 1 on Saturday, we have the SmackDown Women's Championship, Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey. The Raw Women's Championship, Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair. Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin. Rey and Dominic Mysterio versus The Miz and Logan Paul. We also have the SmackDown Tag Team Championship, the Usos versus Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs. We also have the KO Show hosted by Kevin Owens with special guest Stone Cold Steve Austin. Going into night 2 on Sunday, we have the winner take all title unification match, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, Edge versus AJ Styles, the women's tag team championship, this is Queen Zelina and Carmella versus Sasha Banks and Naomi versus Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. Rhea Ripley is just going through the tag team partners, isn't she? Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville, Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory, and then of course there's a few other matches that hasn't been announced or has been announced. It just doesn't have a date yet. The first is the Raw Tag Team Championship. It's RK Bro versus the Street Profits. That hasn't really been given a date just yet. Rumored matches, Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes possibly. If it's not Cody, I don't know who else they could really put to go against Seth Rollins. Because just like the issue with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar that I mentioned at Elimination Chamber, they really don't build up people to where as though it's multiple number one contenders. So if it's not against Cody Rhodes, it's like, well, who are you going to put him against that make it an exciting, big match feel for WrestleMania? We also going to have more likely the United States Championship, Finn Balor versus Damian Priest, and then with Ricochet having to defend his IC title as well. Who's he going to defend the title against? So we have one announced match and then 3 more matches that could be announced. And then, whatever else they throw together for the pre-show as well. The Andre the Giant battle memorial match as well. And then the women's battle royale match if they do one. I mean, they don't really have a lot of people, so... But yeah, whatever else they got planned as well. And then it's you also have Lita that you can also have in a feud possibly. So who knows? But yeah, like I said, I'm not that excited for WrestleMania reading off the card. I might get excited once it's day of, week of type of situation, but I want to be excited ahead of time, and I'm just basically sitting back and enjoying the build, the road to WrestleMania, but it's not feeling it this year, which is very unfortunate. So that's it for the Wrestlebread podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Let me give a couple of shout outs. Shout out to Julian Rob Bass from Wrestling Court Podcast and AttorneyMinds.com. Keita and Jay from the Keita and Jay Show. Chris from We Talk Next Podcast. Nando and Larry from Half K Podcast. Devin Hafiz from Clark Street Wrestling Podcast as well. And then special shout outs to Straight Talk Wrestling, Circle Debate, Top Rope Wrestling Talk as well. Coming up next week, another road to WrestleMania. I'll be recapping everything that has gone on with Dynamite and Smackdown as well. And, as we are on the road to Double or Nothing with AEW as well, looking to see this women's cage match to see how everything goes from there. Be sure to hop on Twitter and follow me at JDC137. That's JAYDEE, the letter C137. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at Wrestlebread. Be sure to click the links in the bio to get the links to the Instagrams, the Facebook, the TikTok, and the YouTube channel. I've been putting out weekly episodes of a segment called A Slice from Jaydee, where I talk about whatever is going on in wrestling at the moment, and I give my opinion about it. I'm also going to be putting out reactions as well. The reaction of, since we have 316 coming up, the reaction to some videos about Stone Cold Steve Austin, and also reactions and my thoughts about Scott Hall's passing as well. I'm also going to be eventually putting out reactions to matches that I've never seen before. So if there's any match that is out there that you want me to react to, I can tell you right now, I was a straight WWE fan, so there's a lot of WCW matches that I've never seen before. There's some ECW matches that I've never seen before, along with NWA, Ring of Honor, New Japan. Just throw them all at me. Just throw them all at me. But leave a review. Let me know your thoughts as well. And until next time, guys, peace.